Honesty and transparency are how we operate. Supply chain challenges are not always easy, but the commitment from our team to take on the responsibility is unwavering. When you encounter a challenging supply chain crosswind, the whirlwind of options and variables rise and fall. You seek the shelter of predictability. You seek to find the eye of the hurricane. That's where we live. Dunavant. Logistically speaking, we are at the center of it all.
Let the train!
You are listening to What the Truck.
Are you ready to truck in? It's time for your Nooner or Dooner on this St. Patrick's Day. Y'all celebrating? Y'all celebrating already? It's got to be after 5 somewhere. I know it is over in Ireland. I got some numbers for you on St. Patrick's Day and some really awesome looking trailers too. Take a look at how Guinness moves their suds over in the UK. Here's some numbers for you though. How much do you think the average American spends on St. Patrick's Day? Any guesses? Throw it out there in the audience. It's $43.84. And Guinness is going to sell more than 13 million pints in the USA today. There's a 174% increase in beer sales on St. Patrick's Day compared to the rest of the year. And they say to pour the perfect pint of Guinness from a tap, a glass is first tilted at a 45-degree angle, and it must settle for exactly 119.5 seconds. Any of you have the patience for that? Cabbage sales go up 70%. And look, if you're a Catholic, you're in luck because the Catholic diocese in New York and New Jersey are granting a special dispensation allowing parishioners to eat meat today on St. Patrick's Day, which happens to fall on a Friday this year. Corned beef, other staples, big holiday this year. They don't even say, the Pope didn't say we got to do a makeup day or anything. No doubleheader Lent. Next Friday, we're all set. So if you want to eat meat, you're good today. We're in the clear. And here's this. Someone figured out the market value of a leprechaun's pot of gold. Any guesses? I'm not sure how they quantify this, but $1.84 million. These are the best cities to party in. We got my hometown of Boston. You got Philly, Chicago, Pittsburgh, and New York City. The Morning Brew says basically a city will have great parties today if residents spent the past 4 months being miserably cold and seeing no sun. Yeah, it has to do with the huge Irish populations there as well. The average number of drinks consumed, 4.2. So please enjoy responsibly. Drivers, accidents are going to go up 41% today. Keep that head on a swivel. And we'd be remiss not to mention it. Be on the lookout for the Crichton Leprechaun. Here's an amateur sketch of him. He's been known to appear in trees in Mobile, Alabama. He was first spotted by amateur cryptozoologists back in 2006 and is still on the lam. And now for some, this is a holiday that's more than just drinks. It's a reason to be thankful. Look at this story that James Adams put up at LinkedIn. He's the CEO of Revolution Trucking. He said, most people celebrate their birthday. I celebrate the day my life was saved on St. Patrick's Day of 2021. It was on that day I received a kidney transplant. Steve Fracasio, the VP of Logistics at Revolution Trucking, was the donor. Thank you for that selfless act of kindness. Love you, man. Wow. Little cowbell for that, giving your kidney to the boss. Hope you got a nice raise out of that one. Anyways, on the show today, I'm getting into how you keep track of your freight. Do you know where your containers are when the street lights go off? Tim Hyam, he's the CEO at InMotion Global, which offers the popular TMS solution, Ascend TMS. He's got a bunch of data on how brokers are using TMS right now. So it's going to be really cool to hear from him. He broke down all the different stats, and one of the most curious ones we'll get into is who is picking up a TMS right now. It has changed drastically from the high point of the pandemic to the low cycle point that we're in now. We got Rob Jensen. He's the founder of MePlan. He's building digital twins, and he just got out of my alma mater, University of Arkansas. Fellow Razorback coming on the show. JJ Keller's Mark Shedler. He's going to talk about how data is driving data. Can I read today? I swear to God, I have not started my St. Patrick's Day festivities. JJ Keller's Mark Shedler talks about how data is driving driver retention and coaching. Jeez. Plus, inside the Pecan Factory, got Robo Roller Dogs, Get Rich Quick trucking scams, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So let's tip the band and we'll get into the show. Supply chain challenges are not always easy, but the commitment from the team at Dunavant Logistics to take on the responsibility is unwavering. Dunavant, logistically speaking, they're at the center of it all. Visit them over at Dunavant.com. But right now, let's bring up Rob Jensen, PhD candidate at the University of Arkansas, and he's got a brand new company called Meat Plan. Woo Pig, what's up, man?
Woo Pig, how are you doing?
How are you doing? How's your bracket doing?
I'll tell you what, I forgot to make a bracket this year somehow. I have no idea. I got busy founding this company, and here we are.
Well, Furman, they won that big game, and after they won, only 10% of brackets. The second game of the day, only 10% of brackets left were perfect, and mine wasn't one of them.
I know, right? How do you predict something like that? That's insane.
So you are just getting out of the PhD program at the University of Arkansas. What do they teach a guy like you over there?
Yes, sir. So that is actually, I came down to the University of Arkansas because I thought, well, if you want to learn about supply chain, go to the university right down the road from Walmart. So came to the University of Arkansas in 2019. Of course, COVID started right after that. So it was a unique opportunity to learn about supply chain issues in real time.
Interesting. And because you went, you have to call the hogs, right? Do you know the chant?
Ooh, I do, but I haven't taken part in any festivities either, so maybe we'll save that for tonight.
No.
Ooh, pig.
Ooh, pig. All right, this is the weakest one I've gotten from a student so far. I'm just going to call you out. We take a lot of pride over there. Now, I've never actually stepped foot on the campus myself, but I do have a degree from the place. Now, let's talk about your startup then. What about your startup? What is Me Plan? Is it a new game for the Wii? What do we got going on?
Yeah, close. So calling it My Plan, which makes a little more sense in context. So I got started with this project about a year and a half ago with a company locally, Ox. They're a startup working on human-centric automation. And they got in contact with the university to see if we could build some algorithms to improve picker productivity in warehouses, kind of help out with some of that labor shortage by looking at ways to improve productivity. And I ended up building a digital twin for them, very, very basic. And after that, I thought, there's got to be something more to this. So I got linked up with my co-founder, Kim Egens. He is out of Europe, actually. And we thought, he had a simulation engine. I've had experience building digital twins, and we thought, I bet we can make a business out of this. So we are bringing it to market here soon, and the feedback that we've gotten on some early stage prototypes has been as good as I could have hoped. So looking forward to it.
Now, so is this what we're looking at right now? Is this a digital twin? Tell me what we're seeing here.
Yeah, so that is a digital twin, and what that was built for, so this is a mining use case, and this was really to get the simulation engine up and running, and it tracks assets through your supply chain. So you can see that it's got some equipment, some trucks, and it looks at how can you minimize costs, in this case emissions, and maximize your material usage. So we're taking that concept and trying to bring it over into the supply chain space at large. We thought getting visibility into your supply chains would help with dealing with so many of the disruptions that so frequently occur.
So what has gone into building your startup? Well, especially as a student, as a PhD student, tell me a little bit of the story here of getting this stood up.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's an interesting story because I have been finishing a dissertation at the same time. So trying to juggle all of the time commitments with writing a dissertation and also figuring out how to get a company off the ground has been an interesting challenge. But fortunately, I've had some wonderful people help me out with the company side of things. A lot of people with prior experiences running businesses, and just having those mentors to rely on has truly helped me out.
Interesting. Any advice for students who are learning right now? Well, they're also working on a project that they want to spin off into a company. What's worked for you and what hasn't worked?
Yeah, so I guess what has worked is being open to kind of that hard feedback and learning from it. So being willing to step out of your comfort zone a little bit, come on a podcast or a show like this and talk about what you're doing to get feedback. That was the biggest single thing I think I did well was actually just give it a shot. And that's the advice I would give is, it's a lot more challenging than I think anyone expects. But at the same time, it's very rewarding to see something or a project you're working on get legs and start moving in a cool direction.
Yeah, build in public a little bit, especially if you're a student. People will hear that and they'll learn, like, oh, okay, he's a student. He may need some help. You attract people by putting that out there, especially if it's a good idea. People get so worried everyone's going to steal their idea. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Execution is what matters, and you're not going to execute if you can't build a great team. And you're not going to build a great team if you don't let anyone know about what the hell it is that you're building. But why digital twins? Why was that your decision to go in this direction?
Yeah, so digital twins, the company Ox, that is what they were looking for. That is something that they couldn't find someone, or were having troubles finding someone to build for them. So that's actually just luck of the draw. I was in the right place at the right time, and gave it a shot, and it turned out pretty well. So yeah, that was how I got started in the space, and then. Found my co-founder, Kim. He had already been working on the software side of things. He's got 20 years experience in the development space, and so he had a head start on the foundations. And so it was a great match with the, I guess, complementary experiences.
Now, who's the intended user, and how are you attracting them to this? What is the elevator pitch? Why would I want a digital twin? What do I need it for?
Yeah, so I guess a lot of companies have data that they have, but they don't really know what to do with it, and so there's this push to become a data-driven or implement data-driven decision making, and using a digital twin. Once you build it out for your core competencies, you can see where the inefficiencies are in your operations and start to improve those to really impact your bottom line. So that's what gets me excited about it, is seeing the results financially of putting these products into production.
And what's the next step in these early stages? Are you out there raising money? You're just trying to build users? You're just testing the system? Where are we at?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have decided to bootstrap it for now. We went with the find talented people who are interested in the project to build a really cool product and get user feedback so we can start getting some of those early contracts. I actually just started working with Kim about 2 months ago, so it is still very early stages. We're focused on getting that product feedback from potential end users, and then from there we hope to convert some of them into long-term clients that we can provide a software and a service that will help their business be successful, especially as we are more than likely entering this economic downturn.
Very cool. Now, behind you, I noticed 2 guitars. Tell me about them.
Yeah, so I started playing in, I guess, high school, but unfortunately with the PhD program, I haven't had much time in the last 4 years to play. So I thought if I bring them up to my office, people will hopefully ask, and that'll give me a little motivation to start getting back into it. But it's fun to mess with in between meetings. I would not play publicly at this point, though.
Oh, I meant, what model are they?
Oh, one is a Taylor and one is a Fender.
Oh, well, beautiful. Well, before I let you go, I have to send you to the wheel of stupid questions because it is Friday. So let's spin this thing around. What
Let's
we got
go.
here? All right. Actually, it's dealer's choice. I'm going to go with what is, being that it is St. Patrick's Day and all, and being that Boston is the party capital, St. Patrick's Day, what is the best Boston movie?
Ooh, that is a great movie. I'll tell you what, I am blanking. I am from the Midwest. You're going to have to forgive me on that one. I do not know that I can come up with one off the top of my head.
You can't come up with a single Boston movie.
I was so focused on getting everything ready for this that
You never heard of, like, The
known.
Departed, Fever Pitch, Good Will Hunting, The Fighter. We got God Baby Gone. We got The Town. The Town was fantastic. That was filmed in the North End, actually, outside my apartment.
Oh, was it? Well,
Yeah.
in that case, I'm going to stick with Good Will Hunting, since you've given me some options here.
All right, we'll go with Good Will Hunting. Thank you very much. People in the meantime, they want to find out, they want to build a digital twin, maybe not of Boston, but of somewhere else. Where do they go?
Yeah, so you can actually shoot me an email, rob@myplan.com, or just set up a Twitter account @myplan. Don't have a website yet. We've been keeping it stealth mode up until now, so we will get that up and running here shortly.
Cool. And you didn't like Me Plan, but what about Me Undies? They seem to be doing pretty well. All right.
I'll have to try them out here soon.
All right. Take it easy, Robbie. Have a good St. Patrick's Day.
Hey, appreciate it. You too.
Be careful. Be careful out there. All right. Meanwhile,
So we are running the second round of the chocolate-covered pecans this morning. All of the chocolate-covered pecans are double-coated. So this is the second coating going through the enrober machine and through the cooling chamber all the way to the end where it gets packed. So we are running.
Love it. Those are the chocolates and pecan logs over at Stuckey's. That was Stephanie Stuckey. It's been too long since she's been on the show. We got to have her back. Anyways, it's Mark Schindler, senior editor at J.J. Keller and Associates Incorporated. Mark, how's your bracket doing? Any better than myself or my previous guest who didn't even make one?
Well, I'll tell you what, the Badgers were sent to the NIT, so the bracket is busted right out of the gate. So I didn't do one.
I mean, everyone's was with that Furman win anyway, so it might have been a good year to skip.
Yes, definitely.
Well, hey, you have been doing this for a while, and I got a question for you. What has been the biggest change in data and performance management that you have seen from when you were managing drivers half dozen years ago to now? So what's changed in that 5, 6, 7 years?
Well, first I'd like to wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day, and I will venture a guess and say that we benefited from a little bit of the luck of the Irish, because a short, less than 7 years ago, I was managing a fleet that got an every 2-week data download, and I'll date myself, from our Qualcomm system. And we were lucky to coach a driver within 3 weeks of an event. And it could have been a severe, excessive speeding event, hard brakes. So there was that. And then in every case, there's plausible deniability. Well, I don't remember, or that wasn't me. So you didn't have the video to back up your conversation, put it in context. I think just working with old data and in spreadsheets was just the biggest difference. Today, they're coaching sometimes same day if an event is severe enough, and certainly within 3 days. The problem today is they got to manage just a fire hose of data if they don't have a good system that prioritizes things.
You bring up a good point there, and it's not just managing data. There's a lot of data, and the type of data is different, especially when you're talking about a driver. You're talking about things like ELDs and dash cam footage where there might be video involved. Right. But how does better managing that data? Because, the worst thing you can do is put like a bunch of cams in your truck facing the driver and then never do anything with it, right? I mean, yep. How does better managing that data? 100%. How does that help with driver retention, though? Because these things, some of these aspects, too, like these sort of surveillance aspects, are viewed very negatively by drivers.
Oh, for sure. And, you have to have the right approach. You can't go at it with let's see how quickly we can get people out of the seat. The point is to get to drivers early in their tenure, because I remember we struggled with less than 90-day tenure drivers, to alleviate their frustration up front. So if you see that a driver is having, I'll just give you an example. If they're having hard brakes 2:00 in the afternoon in a fairly steady pattern, well, that could be when they're falling asleep at the wheel and they're finding themselves on top of somebody. So you want to see how well they're adapting to their new job, coach them early, reduce their frustration. Then there's the longer tenure drivers that just get bad habits. You got to get to them and coach them and train them up where they've developed bad habits. Don't give them enough rope to hang themselves, so to speak, to where you have to let them go based on your hiring criteria. So I think it's a tremendous retention play having a coaching and corrective action program.
But managing and coaching can be tough. People get defensive, especially in a position like driving where most of the time you're working alone and the only time you hear from people is because they're chastising you or criticizing you. How do you prioritize these events for coaching so it doesn't become toxic,
Well, first, if you don't have a recognition aspect and realize that, hey, there are drivers out there doing miraculous things at times to mitigate crashes, avoid crashes. So put the recognition factor into it and don't just focus on the serious events. The next, to answer your question, I am a firm believer that you have to look at the root cause of your crashes, your accidents, and your incidents. So on your lost run report, what's doing you in? And when you put the cameras in, are they wearing seat belts? Are they minimizing, injury in a crash? But if you really want a valuable tool, I'm a huge fan of American Transportation Research Institute's Crash Predictor Study. They just updated it in 2022, and they correlate violations and convictions to the probability of a DOT crash. So, for example, a failure to yield, a driver has a 141% greater chance of a DOT crash. So if you look up their study, you could sort of work that in with what's causing your crashes, but also their severity correlation, I think, is a huge help to prioritize.
Now, dash cams, obvious, everybody knows about them. Aside from that, what can you do to shore up your safety program and your defensibility?
Well, I'm going to be unoriginal here and say the safety management cycle that FMCSA created really is a great auditing tool. Look at your roles and responsibilities. Make sure people understand what they're supposed to be doing and when. Your policies need to be simple. If it's personal conveyance, we don't do that, or 50 miles a day. People have to be able to explain a policy in one sentence or two. Procedures need to be clear, relevant to what you're doing now, and make sure that's solid, because in another study that ATRI did, defense attorneys and plaintiff attorneys agreed, exceed the regulations. So if you don't have best practices exceeding the regulations, you're a target, and also follow your policies and procedures consistently. And be proactive, avoid crashes, all the things, I've been talking about with implementing a dash cam system, but having a system to prioritize the most serious events and don't let them become undealt with because of a bunch of insignificant many that you can't manage through.
Do you have any closing thoughts for carriers? Mine is that since it's St. Patrick's Day with accidents up 41%, maybe if you don't have to do a run today, park your truck. What about you?
Don't rely on getting lucky. So in my over 30 years in trucking, 25 in the business, and almost 7 for JJ Keller, I've found that if you don't have a system to prioritize what you're supposed to be executing on, your day is going to be overcome by events. So get a system to manage all the data that you're responsible for. Any data coming into that truck, camera, ELD, or the ECM, you're responsible for it. So you need a good foundation, a good system. Our data sense system is a good example of that to help prioritize and keep your people focused on recognition as well as coaching and correcting in a timely manner, so you can keep your business defensible, as you said.
Very cool. Well, hey, I already spun the Wheel of Stupid Questions earlier today. It lands it on Best Boston Movie. What's your pick, Mark?
Oh, Good Will Hunting, by far.
Good Will Hunting. All right, that's 2 for Good Will Hunting. Mine's Gone Baby Gone, but we're the town. Either one. Mark, thank you so much. Thanks for coming on. Go check out JJ Kelly.
Hey, you bet.
Take it easy.
Take care.
All right, send us the hard stuff. That's what Donovan Logistics says. When you run into that really challenging logistical nightmare that keeps you up at night, call the good folks over at Donovan. They make headaches disappear. Visit them at donovan.com. Let's take a look at trucking in the Arctic.
Morning. So I'm going to give you a little tour about the inside of a Rolligon. So right here we got all our regulators, and those control the individual pressure to all the bags, also known as tires. Then you got your shut-ins, so you can check to see if you got a leak down there. You get your diff locks and your pitch control. And then we'll move on. GPS, which is, it's not tweaking out. My phone's just making it tweak out. Then we got our inReach emergency and tracker right there. Down here we got our perometer and our speedometer, temp gauge, and these are all the controls for beacons, lights, heaters, fans, trailer brake, spotlight. Machines have a motor in the trailer and a motor in the tractor, so you're not just pulling your trailer. So this is your shifter right here to put your trailer into gear, and these are your high idle switches and your high idle throttle controls here. This This is your effort knob, which basically can lower or raise your RPMs in your trailer. And then this is your main shifter for your tractor. Oh, these are all your gauges for your trailer motor. You get your transmission, and then everything else is on a Murphy, which is pretty much digital, so none of the other ones really matter. You just got your oil pressure, coolant temp, engine RPMs, battery voltage, stuff like that. And then you got the same one down here for your tractor. You got two different tacks, one for your trailer and one for your tractor, so that if the electronic ones fail, you got those as a backup. You got your bag air and your brake air right there. It's a general operating idea of it all. I mean, it doesn't really explain how it all works, but it's pretty straightforward once you get the hang of it.
Yeah, once you get the hang of it, there's only 7,000 switches in there. Let's go from the Arctic to some palm trees over here. Let's head over into Tim Iams' room. He's the president and CEO over at InMotion Global Inc. And it looks lovely where you are. It looks better than where that driver was, Tim.
Yeah, it's funny. That guy looked like he could be a substitute for a NASA pilot. I mean, that's a lot of equipment.
They had a lot to keep track of out there when you're in the Arctic. I mean, there was controls just for interior controls, pressure controls, trailer controls. There was a lot.
He didn't even mention if they had a seat heater. I have no idea if he had a seat warmer.
His ass could be freezing right now. We have no clue. Where are you hanging out? You're in Florida, aren't you? Are you not?
Yeah, in beautiful Florida. You can probably see the palm tree over my right hand side here. Yeah, I'm in Tierra Verde. I live on an island just south and west of Tampa.
Oh wow! I'll have to come out there sometime and cause some havoc on the island.
You are welcome anytime.
Tim, how's your bracket, though? Do you even follow college basketball? Are you more of a football guy, soccer guy?
Yeah, so I like the real football, the one played with the actual feet. I never quite understood why American football was called football. It should be called I don't know, pound it ball or hit people ball. But yeah, I'm a soccer fan, so I definitely follow the English Premier League and the English national team.
Wow. All right. Well, I don't know enough about that to ask you about it, so we'll jump into some TMS talk, and we'll get into freight, because I do know about that. Now, what's good in TMS? And the reason I ask you this is because you never give generic answers. On LinkedIn, you always have these sort of big write-ups about things that that you love about that space right now and things that you hate about it. What is good before we even get all into some of the data of usage? What do you like right now?
Yeah, so what's very interesting about the world of TMS right now is that for the first time in the last couple of years, TMS has always been an area where the top 5% of the industry kind of had the advantage. They were able to spend big money on TMS technology. They had the IT staff. They had the expertise. They understood APIs and EDI and all of the the different acronyms. But what's happened is if we want to live in a digital world of freight in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, we have to bring all the smaller guys up through the ranks. And 95% of the industry is a small entity, a small operator, very often a family operator, and they literally can't spell, API or EDI. Some of them can't spell www. So they're just not very tech savvy. And so for the first time, I think large shippers and large brokers and large carriers have realized that if 95% of the people I do business with are not very tech savvy, I have to provide them with the tools to bring them up into this digital world so that we can all do digital freight tendering and acceptance tracking, and we can do it from machine to machine.
Wow. So what isn't good? What are you taking your knives out at? What do you want to see gone in this space?
Yeah, so in an ideal world, so I've got to be very careful because, we have about 70 different partners. And so I don't want to tread on any toes. Sure. But, I'll just, talk about very quickly load boards. I mean, load boards have been a mainstay in the industry for, 40, 50 years. We all know the big names. But, over time, what's happening is machine to machine connection where, a machine can say, let's just pretend that there's 100,000 separate installs of TMSs out there in the world. And one of those TMS installations has a load going from, say, Tennessee to Illinois, and it's able to broadcast that automatically to all other 999,999 TMS installations to say, I've got this load, it's available tomorrow at 8 a.m., and then all of those TMSs can basically respond to say, hey, I happen to have a load that's going to be a half a mile away from there that's able to pick that up. And you can then take those almost 100,000 polling requests down to 10, 20, 30 available trucks. I'm not talking about trucks that might be available. I'm talking about trucks that literally are just 20 miles away right now, where they've sat overnight and they're right there. So I think that the world is changing right now from a very manual process to do things where machines will be talking to machines to aid us all to be able to do those perfect matches.
Interesting. So Kevin Hill, he posted the other day that he was looking through some data and he saw that in the TMS, the database he was looking through, more than 50% of email addresses were like Gmails, Yahoos. They weren't like a company's official URL, which not necessarily a bad thing, but it tends to imply that these are much, much smaller companies. They're not very tech savvy either. They don't know how to set up their own URL. And you replied with all this fascinating usage data that you've been crunching. Tell me a little bit about what you're learning about the users of TMS and the size of some of these brokers, because I was pretty astounded by how small some were.
Yeah, so we have a very unique eye on the industry. So there's only one big unified system of Ascend, and it supports carriers, brokers, and shippers all in one system. And so we know how many loads they do, the average rate per mile they're moving things for, their cost to operate. I can tell you essentially, just using simple, statistical regression analysis, what percentage of the industry is profitable, what's not profitable. Today we've got literally, as I'm talking to you, I'm looking at my dashboard, 52,919 customers. 26% of the entire brokerage market uses Ascend today. Obviously, mainly the long tail of those, and that continues to increase. We are still growing even in this recessionary market. And what we've discovered is, last year, 6.3 million loads were moved from beginning to end through Ascend TMS customers. And what we've discovered is that the average broker, in this case, you referring to Kevin's conversation, is only 2.8 users. So we all know the big brokers with thousands of people, but there's a whole lot more with 1, 2, 3, 4 people. So the world of transportation, brokers and carriers is very much a mom and pop, family type operated business. Many of them have dreams of becoming bigger, but they never get past that 2, 3, 4 people because growing a business is inherently very difficult. The average broker out there does under $2 million in revenue. And I'm taking aside the ones that might have an MC number that are not doing any business whatsoever. There are a lot of those, as Kevin alluded to. But the average broker is very small, less than $2 million a year. Let's call it 3 people, 2.8 people. But they can make a very nice living. It's one of the few industries where you can have no college degree. You can make a 6-figure salary for you and your family with just some common sense, some simple technology like Ascend TMS and others. So it's very interesting. People don't realize everybody focuses on the top 5%, but the industry's got 95% of small players that will continue to be fragmented, as far as I know, for the next, at least the next decade.
How do you shore in that fragmentation, and how do you do it from the perspective of, you mentioned something interesting there. You said, all different users use Ascend. So you have these 2.8 user accounts, but then you also have the 1,000 user accounts. How do you cater towards both?
Yeah, so our largest customer is a $12 billion food shipper, basically, and they have a brokerage as part of that to keep the liability separate. And 350 warehouses across the country. But our typical customer is somebody, we average a new account every 23 minutes. So, if I'm on this call with you for 23 minutes, a new account will be created by somebody with a dream. Quite often over the last couple of years, that was people that would see all of this freight just flooding the market, and they would realize that this is my opportunity to jump into the freight world and actually take my friend, down the hallway. 2 or 3 people get together, they have 1, maybe 2 customers, and then they can basically start a business together that they have a dream that they can be much bigger over time. An interesting statistic is that was 2 years ago. Today, our average customer, 87% of our new customers today, during 2023, are not new entrants into the market. They are people that are basically now trying to cut costs. So the easy money of 2021, 2022 has gone away. And what they're trying to do now is say, look, we're down in freight, volumes are down, rates are down. Let's now try to save money. And so we're seeing now 13% of our new customers are new entrants, but 87% today are coming from existing technology where they're trying to say, okay, I have the time to look at new technology, get rid of my legacy product, save some money, and move into the new world of new digital freight world because now I have the time to focus on it.
Interesting. Do you see that trend line continuing? And is that just indicative of the market? You got a low market, and that's just that cost cutting cycle. That's what's driving that.
Yeah, so you know as well as I do the whole trucking world is a world of cycles. But remember this too, So I watch your show all the time, best freight related show on TV, and a lot of the people, if you're 35 and under, you've never really seen a big recession because when you're in your 20, 21 years old, that's you leaving college. That's kind of when the last big recession, the great financial crisis happened. So if you're less than 35 years old, all you've ever known is a world of easy money. I mean, there's been a few blips up and down, but generally speaking, low interest rates, easy money, easy freight, lots of people consuming. And so starting a business in the last 15 years was relatively easy. And you only had to hold your hand out the window and freight would hit your hand and you could, start making some money. Today, that's changing. And so I think that people like me, I mean, I'm 56 this year. I know I look a lot younger. Thank you, doing it for that compliment. but my point is that a lot of the people now are realizing that, hey, I need to recognize that this is a world of cyclical activity, and I need to listen to the old farts like Tim and basically store up my nuts for a rainy day. And so I think that the ones that are going to survive in the next 1, 2, 3 years are going to be the ones that recognize that. And recognize that there's a down market. It's on us right now, and it's going to continue. And they have to be more proactive about cutting costs and being, as my dad used to say, cut your cloth, to suit your suit. So to make sure that they're not wasting money anymore.
I was curious about some data that you posted, and it was really interesting. It said truck drivers went from almost 140,000 miles per year in 2003 to just 84,000 in 2022, but their net income rose 36% in the same period. What do you make of that?
Yeah, so that came from one of our partners, ATBS. A slight sidebar to that, we've recognized that the typical customer of ours needs help with their business. And so about 3 years ago, we started, the biggest request we had was people needing help with their payroll. Doing payroll for carriers is very complicated. And so we partnered with a company called Superior Trucking Payroll. We are now the largest referrer of business to Superior. But then we started getting more questions about, hey, taxes, and how do I file taxes? And what is my rate per mile too low, too high? What's my cost per mile? Where should it be? So we partnered with a company called ATBS, America's Trucking Business Solutions Group. And they are the largest at helping people with their back office and giving them the benchmarks they need, where their rate per mile should be in order to make sure that they're at break even or better. They have 25,000 small carrier customers where you can look and see where you are in the league table, if you will, of most profitable to least profitable. And so they do this report quarterly. And my very good friend, Mike Halstead, who is the person that did this presentation, noted that, and they've been doing this now for 30 plus years. So in the last 20 years, the number of miles went from about 140. So we're talking about pre-ELD days to approximately 85,000 miles today. So that's a massive degradation in the number of miles that you're able to drive. And that degradation essentially means you're going to earn less money. However, the actual gross income went up because the number of basically the rate per mile has gone up. But somebody pointed out in my LinkedIn post, and they were quite right, that has not kept up. That 36% over that period of time has not kept up with inflation. So while it seems like it's a gross increase of 36%, which is correct, the actual amount of income you're earning has gone down. So people they've driven less miles and they're earning less income because of the effects of inflation eroding their income.
Fascinating. Well, they probably need to save some money, and if they want to, with Ascend TMS, the free TMS, how do they go about doing that, Tim?
Just go to thefreetms.com. You can start in approximately 13 seconds. We have we've timed it, and we have a free trial for 30 days. And if you basically do business with one of our 70 partners, you can get Ascend for up to 1 full year, completely and utterly free.
Now, Tim, before I let you go, I already spun the wheel of stupid questions. The question of the day was best Boston movie. You got a pick?
If you'd have said best Boston eatery, I would have said Boston Market because I don't know anything about Boston movies. But the gentleman before me mentioned Good Will Hunting, so I'm going to go with his answer.
Yeah, it's got the great Robin Williams in it. Can't go wrong.
That's right.
All right, well, hey, take care, Tim. Really appreciate your time today. Have a great St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it, Tim.
Take it easy. All right, everybody. Let's take a look at a little urban legend.
According to urban trucking legend, the appearance of a black dog to a tired trucker is an omen that means a fatal crash is coming. Some see the dog as a warning to get off the road, but others say it means you're at the end of your line.
Look over that black dog. All right, it's Michael Rentz. He's CRO over at Gnosis Freight. Hello, sir. How you doing? How's your bracket hanging in?
Hey, I'm doing well, Dooner. Bracket's looking okay. You know, pretty early to determine that, but still in it.
Yeah, who you got winning?
I have Arizona winning, I think. No, Kansas, excuse me. God, that would suck if I had Arizona winning.
You would have known you're not going very far early on in that battle.
Yeah.
Well, where are you joining us from? You guys are, what are you, South Carolina guys over there?
Yeah, so we're headquartered in Charleston, South Carolina. All of our employees are here in the office. So that's where we are, Charleston, South Carolina.
Well, that's dope. Well, what is Gnosis Freight? What do you guys do in Charleston, South Carolina?
So Gnosis is a logistics software company. We do container lifecycle management as well as container visibility. It's two parts of our business. And, work directly with the BCOs and another wide variety of different customers on the data side.
Okay. So how did the company get started? You guys have been around for, 5-6 years now?
Yeah, so officially started in 2017 by our founder, Austin McCombs. Have grown organically since then, have about 30 employees. The current go-to-market with the products that we have now has been around for about 3 years.
And have you been there in that time? Where did the idea come from, your go-to-market product? And are you familiar with what the pivot was?
Yeah, of course. So I've been here the last 3 years. Initially Austin, our founder, started out working alongside a freight forwarder, building individual solutions on behalf of the BCOs, so on behalf of the shippers themselves. And after about 9 products, very quickly realized that we had a suite of services that was valuable to the BCOs. And then kind of arranged those in a way that made sense in a package format for those BCOs. And it was just rather fortuitous that right at the beginning of the pandemic, we started on the ocean and port and terminal side of the supply chain. So opposite of a lot of the visibility providers who started on the domestic side. And fortunately for us, a lot of the problems that created what people know as the supply chain crisis was created and was maintained on the ocean and terminal side. So we kind of had an advantage there, as that was our subject matter expertise, and then the products that we had developed specifically for the BCOs was built for that. So it kind of launched us out into the market. And I would say the last 2.5 years, we've been focused primarily on the BCOs with our software, which is container lifecycle management. But since then, we also created our own proprietary track and trace data, which has become the fastest growing piece of our business the last year, that we sell to a wide variety of other customers, so not just the BCO. So we sell data to other visibility providers, ocean.
Hold on, slow down a second. Why do you think that is?
Which part? Why do I think the data has become the most?
Why is that taken over? Why is that taken off as such a product category for you?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's taken over. A substantial part of our business is still the software itself, and that's our primary business. I think because we were customers of the data first. So the genesis story of our data was we were actually in the market as a software provider buying data from other visibility providers. And we just got tired of that data being somewhat incomplete and having to explain that to our BCO customers. So our CTO, Jake Hoffman, and our engineering team set out to build our own data model to just really be the gasoline of our own system. And it ended up being better than anything that we could buy in the market. And so then people found out about it. We didn't really market it that heavily and started to test it. And they kind of corroborated and agreed with, our assumption that our data was really good and complete. And since then, it's been in very high demand. I think because we add context and what we call opinionated language to that data set, and that we pull data from a variety of different places, not just the ocean carriers, and that we're using the data, on behalf of our BCO customers, that sets our data apart.
Michael, what's interesting in the data? Have you noticed any trend lines recently that you're like, whoa, I can't believe it?
Yeah, from a macro perspective, definitely. I feel like we have we're a very leading indicator with regards to what's going to trend downstream, in traditional macroeconomic metrics. We get to see things like bookings, import volume, inventory levels of some of the biggest BCOs and retailers in the world. So we definitely have an insight into what's happening from a data perspective. And then we pull data from, 6 primary places. A lot of people think that ocean carrier milestones just come from the ocean carriers. That's not true. They come partly from the ocean carriers, but you get a lot of container milestones from the ocean terminals and ports, the rail carriers, customs, and the AIS satellite data. So I think we do a very good job of taking all that information into our system and then showing our customers what we think is the most accurate.
Sure, but is there any nugget?
Us,
is there any nugget of data from that's interesting?
Definitely.
Like, what do we see with bookings right now? Like, because we're like everyone here on the trucking side, they're like, man, we need that pandemic level of volume coming back to the ports here because it made rates go insane on the trucking side. It did on the ocean side as well. But like, what are you seeing there? Or is the cavalry coming? We got more freight coming?
So I mean, it obviously varies by commodity. So to speak, holistically about it, I think that there's a gluttony of inventory still. There are some commodities, maybe discount goods, that are moving more fluidly, but even from the just-in-time automotive companies to the slower moving larger commodities are still have an excess of inventory on hand. I think collectively the whole industry is still waiting or holding their breath to see what's going to happen with demand. So you have to flush the inventory out first. You also have to have a spike in demand, which we're missing. So I think it's going to be somewhat slow and flat with regards to inbound volume for the foreseeable future. We'll have to wait to see what these quarterly earnings look like from a sales perspective. But I know for a lot of our customers, Q4 was slightly up, but still not on trend with what they were expecting.
And what goes into container lifecycle management? I've been a customs broker, and in my experience, that was just the shipper frantically emailing me all day about where their freight is and if it had an FDA release and all that garbage. What does it mean to you guys?
Yeah, so the life cycle of the container for us is the moment the PO is cut until the container's discharge at destination and the empty equipment is returned, and any and everything in the middle of that, and also ancillary to that. So we do air freight tracking, and that's obviously not in a container, so it's somewhat goods lifecycle management, but primarily container lifecycle management. And any of the old standard operating procedures that go along with moving that type of volume, which is, like you said, most commonly emailing Excel spreadsheets back and forth between all the different parties, we replace that. We operate under a principle of by the time you open an Excel spreadsheet, that information is old. And so that's fundamentally the problem we're solving with that. And we do it in a wide variety of ways on top of that.
Nice. Well, what's next for you guys? Big product release coming up this year. What should the people know about?
Yeah, I mean, primarily I would say, it's continuing to go to market. We don't really advertise or market. Although we have 30 employees, we're still bootstrapped, somewhat traditional in that sense, in that we've been cash flow positive since the beginning and very grateful to our customers that they've financed our growth. So getting the word out, within, our own unique messaging is something we're trying to do. It's mainly been word of mouth. So I feel that our current product in CLM, container lifecycle management, fits hand in glove. This is our busy season, post TPM. So spending as much time as we possibly can with those customers and getting them onboarded. One unique thing about us is we're very, very quick. So our customers are live with our CLM platform within 2 business days, and then fully configured after that in 2 to 3 weeks. So very extremely lightweight. We need no IT resources. So right now it's just, lining them up and knocking them down. Yeah.
Very cool. People want to learn more. Where do I send them to?
Nosisfreight.com is our website, and everything you need is there.
Cool. Take it easy. Hey, we got, take care. Have a great St. Patrick's Day. We got Craig Fuller right here in studio. What's up, man?
How are you, man? Happy St. Patrick's Day.
I mean, to you. What are you doing to celebrate?
I am Scots-Irish,
yes.
This is sort of natural, but it's my birthday tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, and my brother's birthday's today. Yeah. So, St. Patrick's Day is always a big day in our family.
Wow.
So
today is also like the anniversary of when I first interviewed here back in 2019.
Was it St. Patrick's Day?
Yeah, because they were giving. Well, it was because they were giving away birthday shirts for you. Do you remember?
Yeah, they did. Shirts? They made the birthday shirts. Yeah, for sure. That was the party we held here. So,
well, going into the weekend, should we be concerned about SVB or any of that stuff? You've been all over the news talking about it.
No, I think the banks are safe. I think the Federal Reserve has come in backstopped, or the FDIC has backstopped all the bank deposits. I'm not worried at all. Yeah. So I think we can all have a nice, restful, and celebratory St. Patrick's Day.
All right, well, I'll take that to the bank. You have a happy birthday. Right, thank you so much for coming on the show. Yeah. Appreciate him. All right, everybody, it's Friday, so let's get to a little good news, bad news before I send you home.
The bad news and good news.
All right, bad news. Your tractor has broken down. We got good news. Your son has got your back. Let's take a look at this video right here. Coming in over on TikTok. Now, those of you out there that are dads, man, this might bring a little tear to your eye. Here he goes. He's just got to pedal a little bit harder to get that moving. And if he's got a good dad, it's going to start rolling any second now. And that kid is going to think he's the strongest kid on the block. Oh, here we go. Thing of beauty. Obviously, you got to give a little cowbell for the kid, but some for the dad, too. Obviously, we know there's a little magic that made that one happen. All right, on to the next one here. Good news, you want to become a successful truck driver. Bad news, there's a lot of scams to look out for. Take a look at this one that's got Justin over at Back the Truck Up pissed off.
I'm getting all these messages on my Instagram with people talking about, how can I get down with you, put me on.
He just posted this 2 days ago and his Instagram's already deactivated. So that's red flag number one.
So today I'm going to teach people how to make money with the trucking game, man. This is all trucking industry money. None of that illegal. I'm not stupid to post illegal money.
So back in 2020, when rates were really high, you had guys like this all over YouTube promising, easy money with just buy my course and I'll teach you how to be your own trucking boss.
If anybody got $20,000 in their bank account, man, I'm going to teach y'all from A to Z. If you got $20,000 in your bank account, which is not much, man, if you really think about it, this is all you need.
Step one, have $20,000.
All right, come closer. This is going to be your MC Authority. This is mine. This is for my brokerage, right? And this is for my trucking. This is two different businesses.
So lots of thanks and shout out to Reed from Lost Freight and Mike Lombard from Lombard Trucking for sending me this video last night. Guys like this are nothing new. There's always going to be somebody trying to sell you a course, trying to put you into some kind of hustle, something that you're definitely nowhere near qualified for. If you're trying to get into this industry, do your research. Talk to guys who have been in this for a while. Learn your operating costs. This guy doesn't tell you anything about like what to pay the driver, how much your insurance is going to cost, what it's going to cost you per mile. Look at rates right now. Rates are, bottoming out and there's no end in sight. So right now is a terrible, terrible, terrible time to be getting into the trucking industry as an owner right now.
Yeah, no, and one thing Justin didn't even mention there was the price of used trucks still going up. That market, and autos are doing great. If you saw Craig Fuller, who was just up here, if you saw his webinar yesterday, The State of Freight, which happens every month, he was just talking about how that industry is. But if you look at what's happening with used truck prices, I'm still seeing price out there that are extremely, extremely elevated. And, that's what Justin's warned you all about there. Don't listen to a lot of these scammers. You don't know what they're talking about. They're a dime a dozen on the TikToks and the YouTube out there. All right. Good news. You're almost at your delivery location. Bad news. Here comes this guy.
Dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die.
Bro, what the you doing, man? You stupid son of get your out the way. Made me wreck my truck. This driving down the wrong side of the road.
Oof. SMH. So much hate. And here's the worst thing. You're a driver. You're out there. You got to deal with the idiotic driving public out there who may or may not be one of that 41% who's drunk and creating accidents on St. Patrick's Day. Well, then you finally get to the rest stop. And what happens? You go, you know what? I want a roller dog. But you get there, and all the roller dog chefs are gone, replaced by robots. Let's take a look at what's going on. All right, everything's going well so far. And this thing is supposed to prepare the entire roller dog. You're supposed to stick it in that thing and get you hooked up. But as you can see, it's already screwed up. It already did not get the dog into the bun. It's pushing back and forth like it's lost in the dark. Now it's got it on the wrong end of this. Let's see if it can figure out. This is the one scary thing about automation too. What happens if it skips a step in the programming? There's no fail-safe. See, that's just trying to pick up the plastic. This guy, he might not even end up with his dog. Let's see if the robot can correct it. It did got the sheet on. Yeah, and it slipped right off. It broke. They drop it in this metal receptacle. I wonder what kind of recourse you have if you don't get your actual Shizora or whatever they're making over there. What is that thing? Do they fry that afterwards, or is the bun already done? I don't know. Either way, you just got to break the machine. I hope there's someone on staff that can get you a refund, like shaking the vending machines back in the day. Hey, be careful out there, people. Have a great St. Patrick's Day. We will be back on Monday with Optimus Prime. Joe Faducci, the owner at Optimus, is here. He built his own Optimus Prime. He takes it around to elementary schools. He tells kids to go kick some bullies' asses. Craig Leinauer, he's the Inland Marine claims from Travelers. We got Lee Klaskow from Bloomberg and Carlos Lanes and Tim Perkins from 5S Services. Find me on Twitter at Timothy Dirk. Don't be a stranger. And take care.